The morning sunlight filtered weakly through the windows of the international airport, casting a hazy glow over the polished tile floors. A boarding announcement for Flight 672 echoed softly, its calm repetition blending with the gentle hum of business travelers and the squeak of leather luggage wheels. Among the cluster of passengers lining up for first class was a 17-year-old black teen named Malik Bennett. He didn't draw attention to himself. Dressed in a plain gray hoodie, slightly worn jeans, and a scuffed pair of white sneakers, Malik held a simple fabric backpack and a paperback novel by Toni Morrison. There was no designer luggage, no gold watch, no entourage trailing him, just Malik, stepping quietly into first class like he had every right to be there. Because he did. His seat was to a window. He stowed his backpack gently in the overhead bin, settled into his seat, and cracked open his book. His headphones hung around his neck and used like armor. He didn't scroll, didn't fidget. He just read. But eyes were already on him. A silver-haired man in 2C peeked over his magazine. A woman in 1D paused applying her lipstick mid-swipe. Their expressions were polite but distant. Puzzled. No one said anything, but the glances said enough. He doesn't belong here. Malik, used to this language of silence, continued reading. The soft thump of heels snapped across the carpet like a ticking clock. Bridget Langford, the head flight attendant, entered the cabin. She was composed, strict, with platinum blonde hair tied into a pristine bun and a uniform so sharply pressed it looked sculpted. She carried herself not like someone trained to serve, but to command. Her eyes scanned the cabin. When she saw Malik, her smile faltered not out of surprise, but recognition. Not of the boy, but of the dissonance. She walked straight to him, her posture tight, her voice silky smooth with rehearsed authority. "Are you sure you're in the right seat?" she asked. Malik didn't flinch. He placed his book in his lap and looked up, calm and respectful. "Yes, seat 2A. Bridget didn't smile. "May I see your ticket?" He handed it to her, pulled from the pocket of his hoodie. She took it without a thank you, studying it with narrowed eyes. She wasn't verifying. She was hunting for a flaw. A reason. Any reason. "And are you flying alone?" she asked, voice still sweet but dipped in condescension. "Yes. I've flown alone before," Malik answered. Bridget clicked her tongue lightly. "Are you sure this is a real ticket?" The air in the cabin thinned. Eyes turned. A man tightened his seatbelt. A woman ahead paused, scrolling on her phone. No one spoke. The judgment was thick, ambient, unspoken. Malik didn't look down. He didn't get angry. He just waited, until Bridget reached for the phone, resting on his armrest. Her hand slapped against his, sharp and uncalled for. A collective inhale filled the cabin. He didn't react with rage. He didn't say a word. He stood, calmly, retrieved his backpack, and walked to the rear of the plane without a single backward glance. The silence left behind was heavier than any shout. Malik found an empty seat near the restrooms. The air smelled of disinfectant. The seat creaked. He didn't care. He pulled out his phone and typed a single message. "She slapped my hand and sent me to the back of the plane." No punctuation. No exaggeration. Just the truth. 2,000 miles away, in a sleek glass tower in New York, his father, Darius Bennett, CEO of Bennett Aero, stood mid-presentation before a dozen executives when his phone buzzed. He glanced down. He froze. Then, with deliberate calm, he placed his clicker down. "Keep Flight 672 at the gate. There's an issue with Seat 2A. No one questioned him. Within seconds, the command trickled through the system, fast and direct. Back on the plane, Captain Reed Holloway was wrapping up pre-flight checks when the alert came. "Do not close the cabin doors. Await further instruction." He'd been flying commercial jets for 30 years and had never seen a hold command like that with no technical explanation. He knew instantly. This wasn't about a malfunction. It was about ethics. In the galley, Bridget sipped her coffee smugly. "Kids like that think they can just sit wherever they want," she muttered. Beside her, junior flight attendant Lena James looked uneasy. "I think his ticket was legit. It said 2A. Bridget waved her off. "Lena, look at how he was dressed. Hoodie. No suitcase. You think someone like that belongs next to a CEO? Lena didn't reply, but a seed had been planted. In the cockpit, Captain Holloway received a secure video call. The stern face of Marcus Levin, Bennett Aero's chief operating officer, filled the screen. Bring the head flight attendant to the cockpit. Now, when Bridget arrived, Marcus didn't mince words. Do you know who you just removed from seat 2? She blinked, confused. Just a boy. Young. Not a first-class type. Marcus leaned closer. That's Malik Bennett, Darius Bennett's only son. Bridget paled. You assaulted and removed the CEO's son from his assigned seat without verifying anything. No report. No procedure. Just a hunch. I didn't know. We don't care if you knew, Marcus said coldly. We care about your actions. He paused. Here's what happens now. You will walk back there, apologize in front of the cabin, and personally escort Mr. Bennett back to seat 2A, or you will be removed and suspended pending investigation. Bridget stood frozen, the authority drained from her bones. The walk to the back of the plane felt like a mile. Every passenger watched her approach Malik, who still sat motionless by the bathroom. She didn't make eye contact. I'm sorry, she said, her voice small. I was wrong. Please come back to your seat. Malik looked at her. No, I'm good. Just clarity. You call that inconvenient? He asked quietly. Bridget swallowed hard. I judged you. He nodded once, stood, and began walking back. Passengers sat straighter. Some lowered their heads. Others turned away, ashamed. The same people who had watched him get pushed out now bore witness to his return. In seat 2A, his book was still there. Someone had straightened it. Malik sat down, said nothing. This time, the silence that followed wasn't from complicity. It was respect. A few rows back, Lena typed a note on her phone. He's back in 2A, but maybe we're the ones who need to change seats inside ourselves. The story didn't stay on the plane. A woman in economy, who had filmed the slap and Malik's quiet departure, uploaded the video. No commentary, just the footage and the caption. He did nothing wrong. And they still sent him to the back. Within hours, it went viral. At Bennett Aero's headquarters, the PR team was in crisis mode. The clip had millions of views. Hashtags trended globally. News outlets picked it up. Inside classrooms, boardrooms, living rooms, people watched the footage and saw themselves in the silence. Not in Bridget's slap, but in their own inaction. Back in New York, Darius Bennett read a message from his son. I don't want them to just see the slap. I want them to see the silence. He closed his eyes, then made a call. A week later, Malik stood at a podium inside the Bennett Aero Training Center. Not as a victim, not as a symbol, as a voice. I didn't raise my voice that day, he said, but I was still heard. And if you think staying silent means staying neutral, then you've never felt what it's like to sit in someone else's silence. Flight staff, executives, recruiters, everyone listened. One by one, they began to speak, confess, apologize, not for PR, but for growth. Bridget, now suspended, sent a handwritten letter. I was wrong, she wrote, not because I broke a rule, but because I followed my bias without questioning it. I hope to be the first student in this reform. Malik read it. He agreed to meet her not for closure, but to witness if change was real. At their private meeting, she looked him in the eye. I thought I was fair, she said. But fairness without reflection is just prejudice in disguise. Malik replied, then start there. Teach others from that truth. She nodded. Weeks later, Bridget co-led a new training course titled Personal Bias and Service. The opening slide read, "A smile doesn't erase a slap." Every flight crew member was now required to attend. Malik didn't seek credit. He didn't take interviews, but his presence lingered. In first-class cabins, flight attendants looked passengers in the eye. In boarding lines, fewer assumptions were made. In schools, his video was played. Teachers asked students, what would you have done in seat 2C? And in homes across America, parents spoke to their children about the kind of silence that causes the most harm, the silence of pretending not to see. The seat number 2A on Flight 672 became more than just a seat. It became a reminder. And Malik Bennett? He didn't need to be seated in first class to make a statement. He just needed to stay seated in truth and let the world rise to meet it.